if you don't know, I am Becky and I work at the St Bride Foundation as a volunteer, as their events curator. It's just really lovely to have you all here today. This is our last event of the year for the St Bride's organised events, but we have some other brilliant things coming up. So we're gearing up into Christmas mode now, so that's very exciting. It's a little bit too soon for me still to be thinking about it, but there we go. If you weren't aware, we host events like these to help fund the upkeep of our fantastic Grade 2 listed building, management and conservation of our unique and irreplaceable library collections, and running of our print workshop and learning programme. By coming along to lectures like this, your money goes a long way to really help us keep us going and everything. So it's really, really, really appreciated. So please do keep supporting us in this way. So just by being here tonight, you're doing a really good thing. So you should feel good about yourselves. We'd like to just say a huge thank you to Google for sponsoring the live streaming of this event, and to the Winkinder Word Society Charitable Trust for sponsoring students around the UK to be able to attend for free this evening. Oh, I've just changed my slide, but I have something else to say that's not related to the slide, just to confuse myself. So, as you can tell, we are live streaming the event, and if there are problems, as we just had, but we sorted out very quickly, please do bear with us and we'll sort them out as soon as we can. For anyone on Zoom, if you're having troubles your end that aren't related to the sound and that might be our fault, you can just try logging in and out again, and that generally works. If for any reason your computer dies, gets carried off by carrier pigeons, or something crazy happens your end, don't worry, you won't miss the event. We are recording it, and we will send the link to everyone in person and online to watch in their own time after the event. And it will just be exclusively for you guys, so no one else can watch it. So it's all a bit exciting, isn't it? Can everyone on Zoom just make sure they're muted so you don't interrupt anyone's enjoyment of tonight's performances and talks? And for anyone in person, can you please just make sure that your mobile phones are turned on silent? We are completely happy for you to take photographs throughout, just don't use a flash. And now the safety announcement of the fire safety, which is always my favourite bit, which so many people have probably heard too many times, but here we go again, just have to do it for our legal bits. So if there is a fire in St Bride, you will hear one continuous bell, and I heard it the other day for the first time. It is very, very loud, so you won't miss it. And the meeting place will be through reception, through the doors out there, and we'll meet in the square. If the fire happens to be in reception, we'll direct you down past the print workshop, the theatre, and out onto the street, and direct you to meet up to that point. So hopefully now you're all prepared if that does happen. Anyone at home, hoping you've got your own protocol in place. So now I can get onto this fantastic slide, which is much more interesting than talking about fire escapes and things like that. So we have some fantastic events coming up. One's next week. It's All the Fonts of the Fair, which is iMagazine's Type Tuesday with Joby Carter. It's going to be one you don't want to miss. His work's absolutely incredible, and if you've not been to Carter Steam Fair, it's just a feast for the eyes and really, really worth coming to. In January, which seems a far, far away, but it's going to come sooner, which I don't like thinking about, but we have some fantastic events coming up. We've got the brilliant Shirley Hughes and Friends lecture with Shirley's daughter, Clara Vulliamy, and it's going to be online in person, and it's going to be a really fantastic retrospective into the fantastic work Shirley Hughes does. If you don't know Shirley Hughes, you might know her books from Dagger to Alfie to Lucy and Tom. She's just, one of our treasures of illustration heroes in the world. So she's just brilliant, and definitely come along to that. But there'll be lots of unknown work and unseen work that they've not found before in her archives, and it's just going to be really fantastic. I've seen some fantastic fashion sketches that she's done that are just absolutely beautiful. Her sketchbook work is just going to be fantastic. And then we have the legend that is Peter Saville in conversation with Paul Barnes on the 14th of March. Now that has sold out in person, so you can only join us online for that one, but again, it's going to be something you don't want to miss. And we've got loads more going up on our website in the coming weeks, so do keep an eye out for those as well. So most of you will already know about St Bride Foundation, but if you don't, this building holds a fantastic collection known as the St Bride Library. You can access our reading rooms on Wednesdays, and I think there are 2 3-hour slots throughout the day, and you need to book in advance. It holds the biggest collection of typographic wonders and printing treasures in the world, we think. We can't verify that, but we like to claim it. It's just an absolute treasure trove, and it's really, really incredible. So do go and explore if you haven't ever before. And we've also got printing workshops going on downstairs tonight, in fact, in our letterpress workshop. So if you get inspired by tonight's talk, come and learn how to do letterpress yourself. We do bookbinding workshops, wood engraving. There's just lots here. And you can also do tours of this fantastic place as well. So lots to do, not just the lectures. So please do come and explore more things we have going on. And I talked about Christmas, mainly because I would love to let you know we have these fantastic limited edition Christmas cards that were created specially for St. Bride by some of the world's leading artists, designers, typographers, and illustrators. So we've got something by Zeb Lester, Jessica Hish, Eric Van Blockland, David Pearson, Alan Kitching, Jem O'Brien. The list goes on. It's just a fantastic thing we have here. So they are limited edition, and so they're very special. And they're on sale for £15 at the back of the hall currently, but if they're not on sale later, they will be on sale in the reception area. And we've got some other fantastic cards and bits and pieces if you'd like to get in early and get your Christmas cards and do a good thing and give us some money. Anyway, I think that's nearly enough waffle from me about St. Bride. You can find out more stuff on our website. So that's the plugging for St. Bride done. So now, the reason we're all here is, very excitingly, we are talking about letterpress and poetry in collaboration tonight. So our talk will last approximately 60 to 70 minutes, and we are really, really delighted to be welcoming Stephen Fowler, Angie Butler, Pat Randle to St. Bride today. So if you didn't know, and hopefully all our marketing has been really good, this is a fantastic celebration of the launch of their publication, The Hyphen is a Dagger, which you can see copies of on the piano if you'd like to come and look later. The publication is an outstanding example of what is possible when writers and printers work together with simultaneous purpose, unlocking the creative potential of contemporary prose within the confines of letterpress printing. So Angie Butler is an artist printer and practice-led scholar with a particular interest in small publishing artists' books and embodied research. She utilises the letterpress process and the books as a collaborative spaces to connect people and language through haptic environment. Angie is also a senior research fellow at the Centre for Print Research at the University of the West of England in Bristol. What a fantastic resume that is. And now going on to Stephen. He's a writer, poet, and performer who lives in London. His work aims to encapsulate an expansive understanding of what poetry and literature can be, exploring the textual, visual, asemic, concrete, sonic, collaborative, performic, improvised, curatorial through 40 publications, 200 performances in over 40 countries, 4 large-scale event programmes, numerous commissions, collaborations, and more. I mean, you can't beat that either, can you? And Pat Randle, I've known for a very long time. He's a brilliant letterpress printer who runs the Nomad Letterpress from the Whittington Press. They specialise in printing books by letterpress and have a fully equipped monotype department operated by Ellen Bills and Neil Winter. And the metal type used in the publication was cast there. And I do just have to give one last plug to this fantastic publication we're all celebrating this evening. If you would like to buy a copy, they're at a special price tonight of £50 for anyone in person. And if anyone online would like to go and get their own copy, you can head over to the Nomad Letterpress website where they're £60. And we will be putting out links if you can't remember what I've just said, and we'll send it to you or pop it on our social media channels tomorrow. So thank you for bearing with me and my slightly waffly intro. It's been fantastic to welcome you all here today, and now I would like to hand over to Stephen. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It means a lot to us. Thank you, everyone online, of which there are thousands of people online, which means we're all on our A game. We won't talk too much now about the publication because we have a big chunk of the evening to do so, but just to say the idea and the inspiration of the publication conceptually is to interrogate the possibility of letterpress and poetry, or any kind of literature, working in harmony rather than illustratively, i.e., a poet would ask a printer to render their work into publication, or a printer would commission a poet. We have tried to avoid that and synthesize. And so we have asked 2 other poet, artist, printers to open up for us with short presentations of their work in a performative kind of way. So before we bore you, we are very happy to present the work of Jules, Sprake and Simon Tyrrell. And they're in our orbit. They are people, peers of ours, Angie, Pat and I, who have inspired us, who have worked with us. And so we're really delighted, humbled that they would join us tonight. Such an amazing place. Thanks again, Becky and Peter. So first, it will be Jules Sprake, followed by Simon Tyrrell, presenting some of their work, which is connected to ours and to Guillaume in spirit and in kind. So a round of applause for Jules Sprake, please.
I don't know which mic to use. I might use both. No, obviously I'll stick with this one. Thank you. I'll stick with this one. It's really nice to see you here this evening, and to everyone online in your homes and warehouses and wherever you are. But thank you, and it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm going to kind of talk through a little exercise that I have made for tonight. So it's like a premiere. I realise, Simon, I'm taking up one of my minutes by just waffling a little bit, so let me get into it. I like to call it a little exercise because there's no kind of analysis or reflection involved. For me, an exercise is something you just do. In French, they might use the word étude, and you might have heard that in musical compositions. So if you play, an étude might be an exercise. I like to think of it as an unfinished practice. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. And hopefully make some connections between printmaking and poetry and printmaking. So, let me just turn on my little étude. So, made in the USSR around the 1950s, I think, and it is called an étude. I'm particularly proud of this because I bought it for tonight. I love to buy a new bit of kit or get donated an old bit of kit. Just love to have it. So this is my instrument for tonight. Okay. I thought I might just introduce the étude because no one can hear it but me. Let's just see if this works. And for those... So that is actually the noise, that's it speaking right now. That's its noise. Okay. So I got my tool, my instrument sorted. That's what I'm going to use. I now need some content. Unfortunately, my friend Martin Wakefield put out a call. He's written 14 poems called Takes. And he said to our poetry group, of which there are people here, Patrick as well, to do something with these poems. And one of the things he wanted to do was printmaking. And I said, that's fine, Martin, but you choose the one. So he emailed me a poem and said, it's called Being, and can you do something with this? Being. You can't rely on the horizon here. It shakes and tumbles, draws down your eyes until they need to shut. The after images are clouds or mountains, black against red. It's also much more real on a screen. If you get under the skin, the shell sheds whole. The line is real, but negligible, but obligatory. And so I do what I do quite often in my practice. I turn to another lovely tool that I've got, which is my granddad's old typewriter. He died just after his 100th birthday, and I took it out then, put a new ribbon in, and just kind of type. So I thought, okay, I will type the first line of Martin's poem. And I found by actually projecting this onto the wall, it made me laugh a bit because I've kind of got a line like that on my wall at home, and it made me laugh. You can't rely on the horizon here. No, I can move it around, I can wobble it, I can put it wherever I like. It's a completely unreliable horizon, and I've made a typo because I've written horizons and not horizon. And that's where I started. I thought, right, I'm going to make some unreliable horizons. For those of you in the print business will see that I've used a very sophisticated letterpress kit here called Block Face. You might have seen it online, 24-piece modular typography stamp kit. So using that and a stamp pad, I got to work on making some unreliable horizons. Are quite wobbly. They can also go quite big. And one here, which depending on your power source, again unreliable. And which way up? I've got 2 horizons there, or is it 4, 1 there? Not sure. Again, I'm calling it another unreliable horizon. Oh, just so this one. I like this one because I put some Letterpress on it as well. Ta-da! Another unreliable horizon. And then, you'll be pleased to know I got to the last one. And it's last because it's 14 lines. And I thought, that's it. That's my last horizon, 14 lines. Then this horizon kind of said back, well, write 14 lines then. It's kind of a bit of a challenge back. So I will end with the 14 lines I wrote to end this exercise. Unreliable horizons. Medieval blue pigment made in Japan. Imprints tacky fingers and stays. Doubtful it will work. The image smears, or is it hazy? Black and red ribbon feeds a bichrome path. Under tension, his typewriter makes papery holes to see through or find a view. Emulsion clouds this side of film mounted between glass squares, facing the lens, registered and framed. I lick the end of his correction pencil, pick up where he left off, rubbing the 14th line. Thank you. Thank you.
This is a huge privilege. Thank you very much indeed. A contextual summoning to the mysteries. Sovereign citizens, hither am I sent, a message for to say. I pray you all that be present, that you will hear with good intent, and let your ears be lent. Heartful, I you pray. Resisting temptation to go for a straight reprint of what's already been, I'm composing instead to make a different impression at this kiss-fit venue. In Fleet's cradle, where words of all the worlds dwell, and the art and mystery of printing for the poet prevails. Where civic folk gather collective endeavour at the heart of community, plying and honouring handicraft for well-being and commonwealth. the mysteries. The resting place both of England's first topographer and Ludus Coventrii, a collection of those mysteries that were plays for Corpus Christi. The mystery plays contain stories of all things and all time. So, gathering with Guillaume here then for this art and mystery, troubadouring no Spanish practice with humorous vulgarity, in style turned light, rich, or closed. To borrow instead his Occitan for the composer who composes, invents, discusses. My composing stick contains the universe. Well, it's a measure of 18-point universe currently. A face formed from Frutiger's feeling for close bedfellows, beauty, readability, and banality. For the best impinges least on the reader's consciousness, the sole tool that communicates the meaning of the writer to the understanding of the reader. So we shall plane our type together in the galley with which we sail the plains of immanence, where all is all and there is everything beyond, and from which each and everything is composed. Consistently there, even if unseen or unknown. For printing's own mystery of mark-making, manuscripts, matters and meanings also has secret rites to which only initiates are admitted. Other mysteries are available, something difficult or impossible to understand or explain, and the Eucharist. So this building, the magical garden book hoard of language lore, is it tonight for us no less a poet's chapel? With its revelations, stories of all types and all time, the mystery of all beginnings and ends. In the beginning, the word becoming flesh, this is my body. Distant schools of design unite on the human body in their disparate endeavour. The eye, the hand, the forearm. And we shall ponder this night on measures from the corpus of our own craft. The naked form, where's found our eye, our ear, chin, near cheek, arm, shoulder, back, leg. Our whole body from hair space and beard to crotch, borrowing from those close kin with spur and tail. Such a menagerie from where pigs and monkeys, cock and bull illuminate meaning in manuscript to where in this piggery pigsty now not only monkey and pig but horse and donkey avail themselves of furniture and with coin and key choose a comfortable measure and chase meaning to the point, allowing faces to speak in their natural idiom, choosing those that suit the task as well as the subject, those that will survive and, if possible, prosper under the final printing conditions. We'll see them kerning consistently and modestly, or not at all, and setting ragged if ragged setting suits. And here he is again, that printer's devil we first met in a mystery play. I am a poor devil, and my name is Titivulus. I must each day bring my master 1,000 bags full of failings and of negligences in syllables and words. As Wynkyn de Worde would of William, I as journeyman seek instead Ralph's counsel, the wise wolf adviser in the chapter house of our transubstance, where words become fresh, and turning type to tale is the thaumaturge's wonder-working, an alchemist's journey from basest materials to Archimedes' votive gold coronation. Now, in the manufacture of printers' metal type, a matrix is the mould used to cast a letter, from the Latin meaning womb, or a female breeding animal. But it's no mondegreen of our mysteries devil, our matrix-born font is instead the fount for all the knowledge, the fount of all answers from first to last, from the French for casting and Latin for melt. So if we can mine mystery's mark for meaning, and the print mark is more than dagger mighty in marking the reader's way, are we surprised that martial manuals might be served by a printer's analogue, pressing our chapel menagerie into service? Everything written symbols can say has already passed by, like tracks left by animals. The aim is to reach true being by means of those tracks, those letters, those signs. But reality itself is not a sign, and it leaves no tracks. It doesn't come to us by way of letters or words. We can go forward toward it by following those words and letters back to what they came from. You know, the poet could use the name of the thing, and the thing was really there. This is composing. My series of actions habitually performed, fully justified, minding my P's and Q's. All the proof required that printing is a mystery from beginning to end. But have we made any impression? I'm told text and manuscript have expectations and requirements to balance the front with that back matter. That is here our sacramental close. After what I hope has been a joyful marriage of text and type, to which both parties have brought their cultural presumptions, dreams, and family obligations. So, before we take skinks around the stone and wend our way for our ways goose, there's just time to chase the type lice and distribute the means of our tale telling, to join all tales told and all still to tell. Do this in remembrance as the printer's devil takes the worn and broken type to our hell box for melting and recasting. Thank you.
We're just playing this all the way through. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about this. Okay.
Welcome to the beautiful Cotswolds.
You're not here. Too bad for you. But I am. And this is the legendary Whittington Press. I'm Stephen J. Fowler, a poet and performer. And this is Pat Randle of Nomad Letterpress and Angie Butler of AB Press. Two of the most warm-hearted and wonderful printers and artists you will ever meet. This is our collaborative book, Guillaume the Ninth, Crusader Troubadour. It has a longer run-on title, but this video is about the process of us making this book. It has been a completely unique, wonderful collaborative process. That's a dead fly. I thought it was interesting. Forgive me if this video is boring. It is supposed to show an insight not only to the collaborative process, but the innards and the workings of the famed Whittington Press. And I hope it is a memento for me and for you, if you're watching it, of what the process is behind a beautiful, rarefied, letterpress printed book. We're going to do a limited edition book of this, and I will tell you about it as this video goes on. Boring as it may be to many of you. Tough. This took place, this film, on November 25th, 2022, to date myself. And essentially, Pat, Angie and I had worked together before. Oh, there we go. This is the proof. This is the proofing day. And essentially what happened is I wrote new poems. Guillaume, a new series I'm starting, hopefully one day a full book. Short poems with a constraint set by Angie and Pat. We had worked together before, thanks to Angie's amazing curation from UWE and the Centre for Print Research in Bristol. We had come together and made another publication, and we decided we enjoyed it so much we'll make a brand new limited edition letterpress publication, which we think we're going to come out in 100 copies. And I wrote these poems about this Guillaume because of a trip.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll frame that bad boy.
First ever troubadour who was also a crusader. And then we found that in this small village of Whittington, where Pat's press is situated, that there was a crusader, Richard de Croups, Sir Richard de Croups, or Croupes, buried nearby. And so I wrote this little weird suite of poems about Guillaume visiting Richard in this village, in this area where the press is, with Angie and Pat featured in the poem. So it's self-referential, slightly meta, slightly place-specific, as Pat would say. Onions, Valor, Guillaume Wales. Begone, fiend, lust is poetry divine, and not yours to give. I fornicate in God's name. Fine dining. My holy words do banish thee, and thy ugly whelp. Onions, Valor. I mean, I don't want to spoil it.
I don't want to spoil the poem sequence, but anyway, Guillaume visits Whittington, meets his mate Richard de Croupes. They'd been on a crusade, they're having some din-dins, and the devil appears, etc., etc. The more interesting thing, perhaps, than my poetry is the process. I wrote these poems set with a condition that Pat and Angie gave me, which was we'd do it in wood type, and it would go up, the typeface would go up in ascending order. So I only had so many characters per page to write the poems. I did that, and I visited Pat and Angie. We've met up 3 or 4 or 5 times for this project already. It's a real embedded collaborative. It's a friendship. It's a joyous friendship spending time together and doing this. And then when I came with these poems, written to the general constraints of what would fit on each page in going up in ascending order or something like that, what we found were, working with these different typefaces with wood type, we didn't quite have all the letters for all the words as written. So live, as we were laying out the type and working out what would go on each page, we were changing the words. And so essentially Pat and Angie were editing, rewriting and collaborating with me on the text itself. It's amazing. We spent 2 days doing that, watching the words transform and essentially much improving the poem, because it was changing not only to the constraint and conditions, Oulipo style, but it was growing and generating between the 3 of us, because it was about word choices. Can Guillaume go to the toilet, or does he have to nip to the loo? You know, that's not an actual example, but stuff like that did happen. And then I've come back to spend time in Whittington Press, so I can actually help learn how to set the type together, how to, place it, how the ink is working, and how it's all actually happening as a mechanical, engineered printing process, which has been remarkable for me. So I've been useless, but I've tried. And that's it. So you can see from this amazing footage what a wonderful place Whittington Press is. And although Angie and Pat look extremely concentrated here, it's because I'm filming. They're incredibly funny, jovial, lovely people and very kind to me. And I love working with them, and I hope this video is vaguely interesting as a precursor to what will be released in 2023, which is Guillaume the Ninth of Poitiers meets Sir Richard de Croupes in Whittington Press, or a shorter title. Look at it. Look how beautiful it is. It's so beautiful. I'm very lucky. Thank you very much for listening.
Front of it then. So we go, that's now the title page, isn't it?
We're going to have the fly in.
Got the fly.
Oh, yeah.
Another dead fly. Wonder if we could get 100 flies to go in.
I bet we could.
So this sits nicely. Just needs attention, doesn't it? And I think it's much more effective. That's a lovely spread, isn't it?
And it's so nice and works so well as the double page as well.
Yeah.
Boom.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to give you a little bit of backstory really in how we are connected. So I'm going to start off, I've got a few slides and then a little bit of video to end with. So Steve and I first made contact in 2020 when sorry. I have to press to begin with, no? I'm tapping and pressing. Sorry.
We're all used to Macs, not PCs. Typical designers.
Okay, thank you. So I met Steve in 2020, as I said, when Steve gave this amazing workshop in epistemic writing for an online print and book festival that my colleagues and I at the Centre for Print Research organised. And after this, we started corresponding to see if we could form a project idea. And at the same festival, Pat talked to us about his latest publication, which was the Stunning 2020 Vision. And this publication marked the centenary of the Society of Wood Engravers.
So I've known Pat and John Randle since 2013, when I began a research study investigating artist publications that use letterpress printing. And over the years, I've spent many days visiting and printing at the press. And what interests me are all those activities, processes, the practice of letterpress, and things that go on and happen in the space behind the finished book. So I enjoy carefully curating and facilitating introductions and projects and events. So after a while, I proposed to Steve that we collaborate on a project with Pat, which became the Printed Poetry Project, a purposely open project, but one leading to a publication, the process of which would be organic. And this is a page from Steve's website about the Printed Poetry Project, which he's dedicated to it. So in May 2021, Steve spent a week in Bristol and Cheltenham working with me at the university and then introduced to Pat at the Whittington Press. And we all talked and we formed ideas and we welcomed visitors as well to the press. And boundaries for our first publication were set visually via printing rule and our decision to utilise what materials we had in the press. We found some unexpected guidance in John's used printing blocks and the waste sheets of Matrix 36. And Steve composed poems in 24 hours and based around the week at the press, and we began typesetting. We had good times and feelings of freedom after the confinement of the previous 12 months. And in October that year, in 2021, we launched this book, which was 25 poems, in addition of 50 copies, at a printed poetry symposium, which was held at the Arnold Feeney Gallery, and with a parallel event at the Letterpress Collective. We wanted to extend our collaboration after this publication, and I have brought a copy of 25 poems for you to look at afterwards. So we decided on a new publication project, which has resulted in this publication, The Hyphen is a Dagger, longer title, printed here. Visual boundaries with rule were set again, and the decision to use wood letter, which was a collection stored at Thomas Mayo's workshop in the Cotswolds, made for an innovative approach to writing, editing, and typesetting, which you'll see here.
Just go straight to the demon's name, because then it's in without Hyphen through that space, which is Asmodeus.
It's got an A in it.
That's
The
one of the
dreaded
most
A, the
printed
dreaded A.
printers' responses ever to the stating of a demon's name.
I think we're running out of options.
We've got to go back. Can you make Asmodeus out of that that's left in that one?
Well, I don't think we'll fit Asmodeus all in one line.
We probably should, if we can.
It's not going to be right.
Does that fit?
I mean, I think maybe we take out the it is, and also the neither's way too bold.
Yeah.
Perhaps
Because Asmodeus looks quite cool.
No, that does look good, because Deus is a god reference, right? So
yeah.
quite good.
It's a good split, isn't it?
It is. This type is much bigger than I think I thought when I wrote the poem. Well, we can find an alternative to it is. Behold.
We might need to pad this out a bit, Steve.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then we can behold then
Behold.
something else.
I would love. I'm glad that neither is not so prominent on this page now as well. Things like the terrible or the awful or the something like that.
It's just not allowed an A.
Oh, right.
Fit demonic if you want, or do you just prefer demon?
Patrick. Neither. Behold. Demonic Asmodeus. Yeah, demonic's better.
This is what was said in that whole conversation, which lasted a hell of a lot longer than the 1.5 minutes that I've shown you. Thank you.
need to turn in the bottom.
Thank you so much.
While I sort out the screen.
Angie, thank you so much. What an amazing thing. The terrible thing about that video was that I've never seen my haircut from behind before. And to see it that size, what am I thinking? It doesn't look very good. I'm going to have to do something about that. So that's extremely helpful. So I have 5 minutes now to talk about my role in it a little bit, and I want to waffle a little bit about writing poetry in general. How do I find myself in the space of collaborating with people like Pat and Angie? And as Becky alluded to, I'm active. I like to collaborate a lot. I like to go out and take poetry as an active, morphing, changeable thing into different environments, to collaborate with different specialties. And there's a particular irony, I think, not that I have a great deal of expertise, perhaps less than all of you, about letterpress, a tiny bit, but letterpress seems to be the place to me where poetry becomes its most ossified, where it becomes its most enshrined, and seems to connect to a philosophy which I rail against, which I think it's useful to share, to just somehow bounce some idea into your mind that might be interesting about poetry. It seems to me, I'm not a modernist poet, but around the era of modernism, there's a split in poetry with processes. One, the poet born a genius, alone with inspiration, being touched by a moment of inspiration and then dumping out a golden, magical turd of genius poetry that wins all the awards. And then something else. The poet as a mulcher of language, someone who's hypersensitive to the language that surrounds them, that their role is to go out into the world, having expertise only from their concentration and exposure on the process of stealing, remaking, eating, shaping words. And what attracted me to be a poet in my mid-20s, later than a lot of poets start, is the latter model. Because while in essence it might be the same thing, in practice it is very different. For the poet who wants to be a mulcher is happy for their words to change in front of them when their two friends are saying there isn't enough wood-type letters A. That poet is not worried whether their initial vision represents their soul or some perfect inspiration. In fact, they are delighted and excited that the mysterious thing which finishes all poems, all creative things, is other people with other expertises. Because when I teach poetry at Kingston University, other places, I cannot help people with the fundamental question of, first, how they write a good poem, and second, why some people think one thing's good and another person thinks it's terrible. The elements of creation and taste remain mysterious. They are neurobiologically or metaphysically remarkable. You lose time. You're in a moment, you're writing, you look back at what you've done, it's like someone else has done it. In fact, being good at writing is terrible. You lose your life. I wouldn't advise it. You have to stay in all day typing. So my understanding and interest in that process then is that every time a poem's being written, a mysterious process is taking place almost to you, and when you're collaborating, the other people are doing it with you. So the decisions on what you're doing with your text don't represent you, but represent opening yourself up to the universe. What is the process of this poetry? I happen to be in Poitiers. I happen to read about Guillaume. I happen to be visiting Angie and Pat and find out there's a crusader buried next door. They happen to be interested in wood type. We happen to not like the colour purple. We happen to want a certain kind of paper. Chance operation drives creativity. And in my opinion, an artist, a poet, a printer who is happy and content, maybe not necessarily good or bad, for who's to say, is the one that embraces that chance. In so doing, we lose certain things. The discipline, the ossification, the perfection. This is great. But in the modern world with the internet, it's gone anyway. There is nobody at the top of the totem pole, as much as The Guardian and other newspapers scratch their nails and prizes still get awarded. Creativity is flattened, and there's a billion people creating a billion things. So what is interesting, I think, is to find myself in an environment, every day if I can, to work with people who are decent and kind and clever and content, who have expertises which allow me to shape my words to them and with them. And that's what this book is to me. To me, unlike the people who might read it, it is not a thing, but an experience and a process. And that's kind of what we wanted to share with you this evening. And to me, therefore, it connects valuably to a wider understanding of what poetry might be for people. And finally to say, that is a democratic vision. Because instead of people thinking they can't write poetry because it isn't the perfect line with the perfect metaphor, in fact, the language which is inside of them, in their strange, strange mind, in their strange, fantastical world, is the best poetry. The weirder and more unique and idiosyncratic their language world, the better they'd be if only they knew it. So, hopefully that is in the poems a little bit, explains why they're weird, and shows why there is enthusiasm around this collaborative project. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Oh. Hi. Steve and Angie have covered most of the story behind how this project evolved. But one thing I'd like to clear up before we go any further, the Whittington Press is really my dad's. I pretended it's mine. Is this mic work? Is that working? Oh, would that be all right? I'll read that as well. Hi.
Yeah, try now.
Hello? Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, no, try it.
Hello?
At the moment. Let me turn it off and on again. Normally helps. There you go.
Yep, hi. Yeah, much as I like to pretend that the press is mine, it really belongs to my dad, John, and there was a photo of him up there earlier. He started the press in the 70s, and sadly he rarely comes in anymore. By day, we are book printers and publishers of books, and we work for other publishers as well as publishing our own material. And there's a real definite precision about the way that we like to think that we work. So from Monday to Friday, we're publishing books on we're using wood engravers, which have to be made ready to within a thousandth of a degree of precision when they're going through the press. And the fun thing about these side projects, and this is follows on from other projects I've done with other friends. For instance, Dagger magazine with my friend Nick, and we had a poster club called the OPC. Well, I shouldn't say had, we're still all here, but we haven't met up for a while. But it really is a lot of fun to do these side projects on a weekend, which take the mind away from that precision of the day-to-day, Monday to Friday job. And this project came about, really, the idea behind it, because I was fortunate enough to come across a big stash of wood type, and being book printers, we don't really ever use wood type, but that whole collection came up. It used to belong to the Cambridge University Press, and it's been a bit bashed around by students, but it's a lovely collection and pretty complete, even though Steve complains about how many A's there might be in particular fonts. It's all there. So it was a lovely excuse for us to get the whole lot printed up, proofed up, and an idea of what's in each case, and that's why the idea came in to start from the smallest size on the first page and work our way through the sizes and the scales of types available there. The other thing that came into my mind from the video is that was the first time that we'd used that proofing press as well. And we're using it daily at the moment, but that was really a good trial out for that big fag proofing press, and I think I'm right in saying that machine is the only one in this country at that scale, and it was quite it's quite a kind of what's the word, daunting piece of equipment to get your head around, which we have done thanks to that project. I don't really have much more to say other than I really enjoyed the fact that the press becomes a melting pot for poets, for authors, and the printing is the outcome of these collaborations. And long may it continue. I aspire to work in the tradition of the St Dominic's Press and other collaborative printing premises that have worked throughout the last century in this country, and that's what we're aiming to do. So becoming a meeting point for these groups is really something that I enjoy, and takes us away, like I say, from the day-to-day grind of dealing with wood engravers and pernickety printers and publishers. So I think we're going to open it up for questions now. Is that right? Or...
We're going to have a little lead question with Simon.
Right, okay.
Sorry, this mic is really temperamental. There we go, got it. That's that one.
Hi, yep.
Is it just you two next?
And Angie.
Oh, sorry. You're on.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if this works. It does.
This one's working.
Thanks, Becky.
It will work when I turn it on. There we go. Hello.
I believe, thank you so much, Becky. Simon very kindly will lead a little chat between us, and then we'll open it up to questions, both online and in the flesh.
You believe correctly, so that's reassuring, isn't
Tremendous.
it? Yeah. I felt there needed to be some sort of segue between the moments that we're enjoying, and so I did my normal etymological deep dive and looked up some words just to see if there was some way of moving between them. And I found out that there's a type of, a style of troubadour song called a tenzo. It takes the form of a debate in which each voice defends their position. Common topics relate to love or ethics, so none of that here, I suspect. Usually the tenzo is written by two different poets, two or more, but several examples exist in which one of the parties is imaginary, including God, the poet's horse, or his cloak. And I thought that was particularly fitting for the sort of way in which we make work together.
Which one is the horse?
May. And they're closely related and sometimes overlapping. Genres that are included in this, there are two particular ones, and there's the one I think will most sum up. The partimen, in which more than two voices discuss a subject, ideal. There's the contenson, where the matter is eventually judged by a third party. That'll be either me or yourselves. And then there's the cobbler espada, or the cobbler exchange, 2 stanzas only, which sounds just like cobblers, frankly. So I did wonder whether or not you've covered a great deal of what I might have asked, and I'm sure there'll be some questions coming in from the floor and online. But there was one thing that struck me, was that what has each of you learned from the project that's had an impact on your own practice, perhaps changing how you'll do things in future?
Ange?
I think it was really interesting filming us through the process. So where we were in Thomas Mayo's workshop, actually filming that process and seeing our decision making in live time. And I've got hours and hours of decision making. And I think it was also a real surprise to me how unprecious Steve was about the words that he started off with and the words that he ended with through that process of us having to edit down because of the availability of the type that we had, and also us trying to input into, really collaborate together. And so for me, I really felt like I could contribute to the text. I didn't think that might be the case, but it's something that thanks to Steve and to Pat as well, where we were working all together. That was something that, I don't know whether I learned in that way, but it was something that was made possible, that was massively enjoyable as well.
We were very non-precious about the final outcome, printing-wise. There's lots of mistakes in there, isn't there? Lots of upside-down letters, and the problem that we had was that we only met up for maybe 3 weekends in the year, didn't we? And it's quite hard to set and print a book during that time. So the pressure was really on, there's an expression for Hilary Pepler from the St Dominic's Press where he liked to get a move on in the press room, and his printing slightly looks a bit, it has an immediacy about it, which I think is a nice thing, and it's freeing to work in that way. So
it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to leave things. It's hard to leave things sometimes.
Yeah.
When you are pressured for that time, it's hard to leave that in as part of the editing process, and not just. If it was me on my own, I'd be redoing it. But as you said, it's freeing, and it gave us all something different.
For me, yeah, I mean, that's amazing that you said that. I mean, I think the balance is always you worry you want to bring a text which you believe in, that you've really worked on, but also that has the flexibility to know that it is for you and with you. That's a very important thing. And I sometimes wonder, as I said when I was talking, when people write things that they know might have to shift, let's say even a novel to a publisher before the editor gets to it, and they say, oh, you're killing me, did they not imagine the editor might disagree with every one of their decisions and preset themselves for that knockback? With this, obviously, I came into it hoping you would both do what you did. And also, I've seen in our contact for a couple of years now, you performing and doing loads of things that when people would describe you maybe on paper, you were throwing pillows at people in Bath at an event we did. You're a brilliant performer, a brilliant speaker, so charming and authentic, both of you. So that's really lovely to hear. For me, what happened and what I learned is really, really important to me, because I sought out from the very beginning, feeling like I didn't know enough about what I was doing, different expertises to steal from them, to learn from them. Musicians to make sound, filmmakers to make video. And so here, I completely re-understood and reconstructed what it is when your literature that you generate becomes a thing. Like, not even talking about books, not even talking about publications, like what's possible in the process of it becoming an object in the world. Because I'd never considered that before. All my publishers, I send them the work and I step back. And now, for the first time, I would consider making things that have my words on them because of working with you. So that's kind of what you've given me in the process, is understanding that the actual rendition of what you might be generating text-wise is an art so full of possibility. I knew that already, but I didn't really know it.
I think this leads immediately on to asking Angie and Pat then, any appetite or plans to do anything similar, clearly not with Steve, but with other poets in future, other poets or writers in future? Any appetite or ideas for doing something comparable with other poets in future?
100%. Well, we are book publishers, and yeah, I mean, we're always publishing work by other poets, and not always, but maybe we aim to publish 3 or 4 books a year. So yeah, but in the way that Steve is in the press room, leaning over my shoulder, telling me where my hair spacing should go between the small caps, I don't think so, really, no. But it's lovely to have somebody in the press when you are printing and working, because you can get all those small decisions made really fast, can't you? Whereas I think email has really slowed all that down. Phone, I much prefer using the phone than an email. The phone is slightly slower, but having somebody there, and there's an immediacy there where you can make decisions and get things done. And I'm trying to think of no one's been in since Steve, but that's not to say it never again.
Betrayal.
following on from that, are there any particular types of type or book form that lend itself to offering up a constraint within which someone might need to work collaboratively like you did?
A type of book form?
A type form, the actual type itself, and obviously you were constrained by the wood and the size of it, display font, for instance.
The fact that you're working with letterpress is a constraint within itself, really. You're stuck with a solid object. You need to make 4 pages or 8 pages on a form, and you're limited to the typefaces that you have. We're stuck with pre-19, mid-60s typefaces. We're stuck with printing from solid objects, meaning one colour at a time. We're stuck with the papers and the processes that we can use. So all of those constraints inform the type of work we can do anyway, I would say. And using the wood type where you're limited with the letters, yeah, it certainly adds another one. But you know, I think that helps to impose a discipline on the work, doesn't it? I think designing on a Mac, as 99% of design work is today, and the infinite possibilities within that system, is not as freeing as you might think it might be. Whereas the constraints of letterpress force the creativity of the mind to work in a different way. I think it can be healthy.
Sounds like the feedback from the experience on your side is about freeing up other people to understand what creativity can be in a similar way to the poetry, making poetry with your students and things like that. It's actually your experience gives you permission to sort of open them up as well. And you did a lot of research, and there's a lot of material for this, and we heard mention in one of the videos that there were other poems, Guillaume poems. Is that right? Are we going to expect to hear more about Guillaume in either form or similar form in future?
I've got lots and lots of stuff which is rubbish. That's just like loads of rubbish I've made, language rubbish. But actually, this coming out, the video that we showed earlier is exactly a year ago. And what was really nice about the video, to jump onto what you just said, is how physical it all looks, how frosty, how we're there in person. All of that and the release of the book has actually shrunk all that. I haven't looked at any of the material because I feel like it's ours, like the Guillaume thing. It may never, ever get any bigger than this now, I think. And I'll just take all that nonsense trash and turn it to a project that's less important to me.
Is it a daisy? What have I kicked over? My drink. I think you're happy to take some questions from the floor, and I understand there may be some online as well. Is that right?
I don't think we've got any questions online yet, so if anyone does want to ask a question to our fantastic group of creators, please do pop them in the chat. But does anyone in person have a question? Yes, I'll come down to you at the back so everyone online can hear too. Thank you.
Got a question for Steve. Obviously, you're very strong visually, just looking at your fantastic suit. And it sounded like this was a very profound experience for you. I wondered if now, when you're writing, you have a added element of how you want the object or the poem or the words to look when they're realized in a physical form, rather than, as you said before, just passing them over to your publishers and letting them make those kind of decisions. So you're now more of a kind of poet artist or a poet printer than just a poet.
Thank you so much for the kind words about the suit, first and foremost. I admire your beanie. It is glittering in the light if everyone wants to get glittered. Thank you so much. You know what? That's a double-edged sword. It's a really great question, because on the one hand, one has to know what one doesn't know. So if I was speaking even to other publishers that aren't as rarefied as my friends here in terms of the way they work, print on demand or slamming things together on their laptop in the middle of the night as most indie poetry publishing, and I was like, you know what you've not done there? They might get a little bit hot under the collar, so I should be a little bit careful with how specialized I now imagine my expertise is. But you're absolutely right in the inference. There is now a kind of hierarchy that exists between this kind of work that has come out for the first time with me. It's my 48th publication of collaboration or collection or something like that, and the floppy print-on-demand, shiny book, which a lot of my collections are. And that's internalized in me, and I think I'm at the start of a journey to maybe one day starting to release things on my own auspice that I've made. But at the moment, they're quite pliable. I reckon I can convince them to do another thing. So it's a great question because it's definitely been in my mind. I'll pay you. Thank you so much.
Does anyone else in the room have a question? Oh yes, one at the front. Thank you.
I've got two questions. One is, if you'd have done it more slowly, would it have been worse? Because it's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. And I love watching the creation of it there. It was amazing to see that. And the other question is, so one is about the time taken in doing it, because I love looking at it, all the mistakes and stuff. They make it even better. It's just amazing. And the other question is the poet who lays a golden turd, have they ever existed, or are they a myth? Oh, is that a myth? That's two questions.
First question is yours, dear friend.
Would it have been worse? That's so cool. I love that. I think it would have been different if we'd had more time.
I think that H would.
Yeah, that's a really hard one for me. The H. In the publication before the 25 poems, which is also on the piano, we made a conscious decision as we were printing it to leave in some mistakes that we could see before printing it. And as we were printing it, we got that there was a little rising space that was coming up, and we carried on printing it, knowing it was there. And it's really hard to do those things, but also I think it tells a different story. And there's something about immediacy has been used, and an energy. And working with Steve, you can see Steve has a really different energy. And that does something to us, I think, when we get together, all three of us. And so Steve gives me permission and allows me to make a book that I wouldn't have made on my own, or if maybe Pat and I got together. So, yeah, it'd probably be worse, in a way that I would talk quite differently about it.
Yeah, I agree. There's something quite magnetic and attractive about the wood type without any make ready, where actually these are looking quite well printed. Hold on, let's get to a bar page where you get the the dinks out of them and the bits of the skin and the difference between the solid black and the half-eaten. Where's that? And yeah, the end there with the chunk out of it, and we've really tried to ignore all that, which is completely not what was the original intention of the person behind the design and the original manufacture of this type. And all this stuff today has a different purpose, doesn't it, to how it was originally intended. And I can see why the attraction is there, to see the rough and ready nature of the pages as opposed to them having been beautifully printed and set and letter spaced. It takes on a different life, doesn't it? The worse it's printed.
Your second question, has there ever been a golden turd poet? I don't want to bore everyone, get super technical, but I actually believe genius did exist before. But one of the worst crimes of contemporary culture is people imagining they can put themselves in the consciousness of the past, that they could have even realized what it would have been to be a writer in 1700 or 1800. It's not possible with metaphysics, with all the things that happened the dawn of the 20th century. Nobody even talks about that half the time. The seismic revolution in the way humans understand themselves and other people and existence and lifespans, and the world population has doubled since like 1975. All this crazy stuff reshapes our understanding of what language actually is. So now it can't exist, and anyone who thinks it does is clinging on to a vision where there was no televisions and internet and no cure for a toothache. In that past, there absolutely was genius, because somehow people were able to navigate all of that and generate these moments which have lasted impossibly in human culture. However, now, to imagine you can do that, if it is true, you should think it's not true. So that's my belief. Anyone who thinks they're a genius after 1900 is a cheb.
We've got some online questions now. I think you just actually answered one of them without even realising, so kudos to you guys. From Laura Davis, we have a question that says, you mentioned the importance of place in drafting the text and how the text changed with the constraints of the process. How did the place of the press affect the process? We caught some background noises, etc. on the video. Presumably there's heat and smell too, and the embodied action of it all.
Talk about your cave.
The poem's all about the village, isn't it, really? The tomb crusader that you found in the church from the 1300s, the sights, the smells of the press room, I think that informed not only your poetry, but also obviously informed even down to the size of the machine and the typefaces available that we have. We've only got one 36-point type, which is the wall-bound there, but really your poem is constructed around what you were seeing and visualising that weekend, wasn't it? As far as I can tell.
I think if the first time Angie said, I'm going to introduce you to Pat, you'll love Pat, you'll get on like a house on fire, Angie also described the Whittington Press, this legendary forest cave, this magical countryside Cotswold grotto. It's an amazing place, full of old tea bags and dead flies. And that is in the thing you were just both kindly talking about, the energy of it. It's like a place where things are made, not a place where people pontificate upon things. People make stuff in that hut.
I thought we tidied up before you came round.
It's a delightful place. What do you think, Ange? Do you think the place changed what we've done?
I think the press has changed a lot, actually, in the space that I've known it, with Pat starting up Nomad Letterpress and John not making so many books and not being at the press so much anymore. So and more presses have come in. More machines, and it has a different energy now than it did have. So it holds quite a lot, I think, and a lot for a lot of people. But it does feel, I think you're very lucky, Pat, to step into that environment every day, because it does take you away from everything else around you in the big cities, etc. But next door, there's a small church, and I spent a bit of time in there doing the drawing, which is the illustration on the frontispiece, and I based it on the tomb of Richard de Croup's, and it's really silent there. But I think one thing about that location is you get a real sense of the cyclical nature of time through the seasons, and how you use the ink in winter, and the embodied process of selecting type. Some cases are really dusty, new type is being made, all of those kind of nuances, and sometimes kind of things crash against each other, the 21st century and centuries previously. I could go on, but that's probably enough.
I'm very aware, Angie, that you have a deadline of when to leave. So I think we could carry on with so many more questions. There's a few more coming up online. But if anyone online does want to ask any of our speakers questions, please either email them to the St. Bride Foundation, or we can pop a chat on Twitter or Instagram, or just email us and we'll make sure that your questions are all answered. But I just want to say a huge thank you to all our fantastic performers here this evening, from Jules, Simon, Angie, Pat and Stephen, or Steve, as I can never know which one to call you. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling now. It's just been a really fantastic evening, and just for me, it's really, really been brilliant hearing from a poet who I would normally not sit and hear a talk from, and just hearing the collaboration between you all. It's just really insightful, and how you've worked together is just a really beautiful process with a really beautiful product. And the scans of it we have shown online don't do the justice of how beautiful the print is and the physicality of the object of your collaboration. It's just beautiful. So thank you all so much for giving your time so generously this evening. Thanks to everyone online for coming, and everyone in person as well. It's just been a really lovely evening. And if anyone in person does want to carry on the conversations, I think we'll be going to the Crown and Sugar Loaf just down the road. So thank you all very much, and a huge round of applause to our fantastic speakers.
Thanks, Becky.